Okay, Hanny, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Nice to be back. I'm
Uh,
good. I'm good. Looking forward to it. It's now Friday when we're recording this, so I'm looking forward to the weekend. Mostly just resting, sleeping in as always is my, pleasure of the weekend is just sleeping in. And that's about it. But I'm happy to be back
yes,
speaking with you.
yeah,
And
me
yeah,
too,
looking
me
forward
too,
to
me
it.
too. So I take it from your words that you have a very busy week, probably, right?
It feels busy, but I think it's just the nature of my work. I put a
Mhm.
lot of energy into it. So even though it's not a crazy amount of hours, I put 150% of my soul and energy into each minute. So I feel it by the end of the week. I'm sure you can relate as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. But that is precisely, again, that is something that we're going to discuss in this episode. That
Sure
is
are.
what really moves the needle, okay? Putting like 150% in what you're doing, okay?
Yes,
Otherwise,
exactly.
we will discuss that, okay?
Yes.
Well, I have to say, guys, girls listening and watching this podcast, that we were expecting, okay, our buddy Sarah Folio, okay, from West Virginia to join us for this episode, but she finally couldn't make it, okay, but she will for sure join us in further episodes, okay? So stay tuned because her contribution is going to be amazing, as we know. And today's lesson, we're going to discuss, and the second topic that we are going to deal with is it's called the truth about uh, learning a foreign language. Okay, and you know that the series are called "Speak Your Mind" and "Speak Our Mind We Will." Okay, so if you find some information or some opinion or some angle that you disagree with, be okay with that. Okay, there's nothing wrong. Okay, so you'll have your own opinion. We have our own opinion, and Hanny and myself will be happy to disagree at some point. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I think when talking about learning a foreign language is something that we both can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
Honey, as you know, it's kind of like reversed, like the reverse. We have gone through
Yep.
the reverse process, okay? Because you're a native speaker of English, and I'm a native speaker of Spanish, and we have learned the other language like pretty
Mm-hmm.
fluently, okay? So
Yeah.
if you guys heard Honey speak Spanish, you would be taken aback, okay? She's like a native essentially. And so for you, the question I want to ask you, Honey, is do you think it is in today's world is relevant, is important to be fluent or even master a foreign language?
Of course. I think that it's an asset. I think that it could only improve not only your opportunities in terms of job prospects, study prospects, etc., but just in terms of your I don't know, personal skills as well, like memory, critical thinking, all that kind of stuff. I think that learning a language can enhance.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's a no-brainer. I think that if you have the time, if you have the opportunity, and you have the commitment, then learning a foreign language is probably one of the best things you can do. Even though it is a commitment and it will be a time and energy investment, I think that in terms of outcomes, it's one of the best things that you can do for yourself.
Yeah, I think that, as you say, investment, okay, the ROI, which means like return of investment, okay,
Yes.
is a very high one, in the sense like, even though you're putting the time, the work, the energy, and probably the money, if you're kind of paying for some tuition, some, course,
Right.
that, there is the return of investment of that, energy and, input, it's going to be huge. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say what I think about this because not only do I think that, not only do I agree that, it's a great investment of your time with a high ROI, but also it is important in the sense like I have like two very, kind of, I don't know, contentious, but very strong opinions about this specific questions. One is that I think that one of the reasons why you should aspire not only to get by, okay, in a foreign language, or in English or in Spanish in any case, but to become really, really fluent or even proficient or master a foreign language is because you're going to become more intelligent. You
For
know,
sure.
like understand that, you know, a language is a complex system of symbols and, you know, and rules, and that alone and understanding, you know, kind of like being able to envision, okay, what's beyond that, what's behind that, it's going to make you more intelligent as a result. And the other reason why I think you should not only be contented with getting by, but aspire to master a foreign language is because, well, in today's world, okay, it seems it's going to be very complicated for the average Yo, okay?
Yeah.
So what you know, what you don't want to do is to be average, you know? Honestly, I know my words might seem a little bit, I don't know, like contentious or even neo-Nazi or something, but you don't want to be average or to have average skills or whatever you do. I think it's going to be important that you take something, you master some skill, be that, you know, a foreign language or, you know, whatever skill, and be able just to, you know, to become virtuous at something. So you can, so there's people around, you know, there's people, you know, like in the entire planet, who are willing just to offer you something in return. Okay?
Yeah. I mean, it's a competitive world, right? So you have to compete with billions of other people. And I do think that it's only going to get harder because in the future, I think most people are going to be at least bilingual, if not trilingual or more, right?
Yeah, so of course, but I think the majority of the people are going to be probably bilingual. Yeah, there might be some bilingual people, but not to the extent, okay, not to the degree that will turn heads. Okay, you have to, again, from my point of view, you have to take some skills. In this case, we're discussing language learning, and you need to master that to the extent that it becomes an asset. You know, something that you can use, you know, your advantage. And because that is the thing, it's like unless you know, for the, when I'm not saying average you, I mean, I'm saying, you know, I mean that, you know, in today's world, you know, because of this conflict, or not because of this conflict, but also related to this conflict, I have come to the conclusion that, again, average people, when I say average people, I see someone who's contented just with having a regular job, whatever, okay, that person is going to suffer a lot, okay?
Yeah.
It's going to become poorer and it's going to be expendable, you know, so you don't want to have expendable skills, you know, you want to have like master some skills, and that, you know, that would put you in an, you know, advantageous position, because there's very few people, you know, that are willing to go out of their way and pursue that mastery, you know.
Sure. I mean, I think it's a combination of things. I think people in general find it difficult to become a master at anything because it requires hours of work and dedication. And for a lot of people, whether it's because of personality factors or circumstances outside of their control, they just don't see it as an option to invest as much time as is necessary to become a master at something or an expert in something. It's just not a possibility for them. So I think for a lot of people, they see something like learning another language as perhaps something that is a luxury. It's not, I don't think that a lot of people see it as something that is going to contribute to them having more opportunities in the future, and maybe something that will even become a necessity in the near future. I think a lot of people see it as a hobby, perhaps, as a luxury thing, you know, that only people with sufficient funds and sufficient time can take part in. And so I do think that people who don't see the value in learning a language will eventually suffer some consequences, whether I don't know if it's going to make people expendable, depending, I suppose it depends on the type of work that people do, right? Because I wouldn't say that for any type of work you'd need another language, but for people who aim, I guess, to have a certain standard of living and certain quality of life, I do think that at some point in the very near future, being bilingual at the very least is going to become a requirement. Almost.
Do you feel like, because for example, I think for the majority of non-native, like non-English speakers, okay, people through like me who live in a non-English speaking country, we feel that pressure even more, You know, like I'm talking about, you know, I'm asking
For sure.
for
Yeah.
example, did you, because you're saying bilingual, and the reality is like most people that feel like pressured, okay, have this kind of pressure just to become bilingual. They are their native tongue is not English, okay, the native language is not English, so they feel even more so the need, okay, to become really fluent in English. My question is, did you have the same? Because for you, I mean, there's many people, okay, many native speakers of English who don't have, I mean, they think that just because they speak English, and for the moment it is the common language in the world, they don't have this need of actually mastering or speaking really well a second language.
Right.
What about you? What moved you to you know, because you're bilingual essentially, so
yeah,
so you're a good example of that, of doing that without the apparent need to do it. So what is your experience in that sense?
well, I think from the moment that I was born, I think I had a special interest in languages. It helped that I have two parents whose mother tongue is not English. And so I had family who never spoke English. And so I think from the moment I was born, I was driven to speak those languages. I only speak one of those languages. I do not speak the other. But I've always been interested in learning, at the very least, the basics of those languages. So for example, my dad speaks Hebrew. My mom speaks Russian. That's their mother tongue. They both speak English now. But their mother tongue, it was not English. And so I learned Hebrew from the moment that I was young because of my dad. So I would say between English and Hebrew, I would consider both of them my native tongue. I learned both of them from a very early age. And so that was kind of like already set in me to not really settle for only two languages. I kind of wanted to learn as many as possible. And I did, when I was younger, want to learn Russian as well, to communicate with my mother's side of the family. But that, I don't know why that never fully happened. I think I was busy with other things when I was younger. So I learned the basics of Russian only because my grandparents spoke it to me. My mom didn't really speak it to me, although she should have. I was really mad at her that she didn't, because I would have known it by now if she had. But I learned basic phrases, basic expressions from the fact that I grew up listening to my grandparents. And I learned the alphabet, so I could at least read Russian. And so, I mean, my point is that for me personally, I kind of always had this innate desire and passion, inclination for languages. And so when I decided that I wanted to come to Spain at some point, this was another dream that I had from, I don't know, 7 or 8 years of age. Don't ask me why. I just decided that I wanted to live in a Spanish-speaking country. And so I started to watch telenovelas, soap operas. I did. It was one of my favorite things.
Which one did you watch?
I actually watched more of the Mexican ones and Argentinian ones. One of them was named Florecita or something like that. It was all about like romance, orphanages. I don't know. There was like always a theme of orphanages and romance. Don't ask me, but I was really interested in Spanish. I thought it was the most beautiful language I ever heard. So I was determined from the age of 7 or 8 to speak Spanish and live in a Spanish-speaking country one day. And so when I finally came to Spain, obviously, I didn't only come here to only speak English and never learn the language. One of the main reasons I came to Spain was to become, at the very least, proficient in the language. So I would say language has always kind of been not the driver of most of my objectives, but it's always been there in the background. Like whatever I do, whatever career I do, wherever place I live in, language is an essential part. So
that's great, and that says something about you not wanting to just kind of like be drawn to the path of least resistance. Because when I was saying that we should aspire just to master something or become virtuous, okay, skilled, gifted, dexterous, and at some skill, not just adept, but really good. Because I think that desire, okay, that intellectual endeavor, is useful just to combat, okay, our natural, our natural tendency to pursue the path of least resistance, okay, which is basically just trying to get away with doing less and less and less and less and less, okay. And you could have just, settled for speaking English, okay, or you could have been just contented with, you understand, okay, that just by speaking English.
Speaking English is a luxury, right?
It is a luxury. It is, and especially, it is a luxury. Okay, it's something. But the things like, for example, in that sense, so that says something really positive about you, about not wanting to settle for mediocrity or just the usual set of skills. Because in the end, you could have survived for sure and live very well, having like not opting for speaking a second language or Spanish in this case. So I got a couple of questions. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. One of them is like, as you say, your formative, period, okay, was, kind of like done by watching this, Latin American soap operas.
Yes.
People talk about the culture clash, but did you have a language clash when you came to Spain?
Just because I watched the Latin American,
because like of course they have
the language is different, the accent is different.
Yes.
Yes, you could say so. Like some of the sounds in Spanish, like the th sound, the th sound. Obviously, it took a little bit of getting used to, because in the Latin American accents it doesn't exist. So, but I would say in general, I wouldn't say I had a language shock. No. I got used to the Spanish accent. Well, Spanish. There's so many different Spanish accents as well, right? But I would say that I didn't experience a language shock, because I had kind of experienced or heard it in the past in some form, so it wasn't completely foreign to me. That's what I would say.
And the second question I wanted to ask you, okay, as you're a native speaker of English, is so I recently kind of like flicked through a book which is called Principled by Ray Dalio, and it's called like, and the subheading is Why Nations and Empires Rise and Fall. And so it was about this cycle of like, rising and declining empires. So it's, I think it covers the Spanish, of course, Dutch, British, the American Empire, but he states, okay, that the American Empire is declining and the Chinese is just, on the increase. Okay, it's increasing basically. So it's kind of like a loop, a continuous, like, and somehow predictable, because he said that occurred in predictable, cycles.
Patterns.
Patterns, definitely. My question is like, do you think that even in the event of China at some point, their economic power, their like military power, of course, or even the influence, okay, say in the year, I would say, 2030, 2000 and or 2040, whatever, do you see, for example, another language superseding, like, taking over English as the world's lingua franca? Like, do you think that, for example, Mandarin Chinese is ever going to take, like take over English? What do you think?
I mean, I don't think it's impossible, because I mean, Latin used to be the lingua franca, right? A long time ago, but it used to be. So I don't think it's impossible for it to be transitioned into another language like Mandarin. But I think for that to happen, China would have to become the world's superpower. And I think it would have to become the world's only superpower. So I think that the US would have to be out of the picture for that to ever happen. And I don't know. I mean, of course, like any empire can fall. So I think the American empire could fall totally and disappear, but I'm not sure that's likely. So I think at least for the next few centuries, I think English will remain the main language that's spoken.
I agree with you. Okay, so even in the event, okay, like for example, like I don't think it's completely, unthinkable or out of the question that China, okay, at some point, like say in 20 years time, their GDP is going to be, if you observe, okay, the rate, okay, at which their economy, their gross domestic product, GDP, is growing. I mean, if that
It's
trend
staggering.
continues, okay, should that trend continue, and you would have like China, taking over or being the first economic superpower in terms of GDP, say something like 15 years, okay, not that, so, but I don't think that is going to translate into Mandarin becoming the world's lingua franca. Why? Because let's face it, it is extremely complicated, okay. So one of the reasons is like it is, you would have to socially engineer everyone and transform, okay, the entire society of the Western world, just to because that would even imply a change in the way of thinking, okay, that change in the language, which also kind of like would go along with a change in the way you think, okay, like
for sure.
And so I don't think that's going to happen because of how complicated it is, and how, like, I don't know, it's like, understand, we have the whole, I don't know, our culture, okay, it's like, entertainment, the media, economics, I don't know, everything, essentially, and especially the power of entertainment, okay, even though like stuff like the Squid Game has become very popular, but I don't think that, like people, that's going to make people, all of a sudden speak Korean or Japanese or Chinese, okay, with all respect due to that language, of course, okay.
I agree with you completely. I think the whole infrastructure of our current society would have to change. So I don't see it happening anytime soon. I don't think it's impossible, but some major changes would take place before that's the case. Yeah,
absolutely. I want to ask you now about your experience as a teacher, okay. I'm gonna be frank here. I'm gonna be super straightforward. I have observed, I don't know, okay, I'm probably some of my students will eventually watch me, and and that I'm sure.
Ooh, beware.
No, I mean, with all respect due to the people that put in the work and time and effort. But I have to say, I'm not sure if you have observed that as a teacher of English as a foreign language, the like student skills, okay, they have somehow decreased, okay, like they are going down gradually. I'm not talking like people are becoming dumber or more stupid, okay. I'm saying that if we think exclusively and in terms of certifications or levels, okay, which I honestly think they are useless, honestly, I will make my point. If we think of, for example, like B2, C1, C2, whatever, the level, okay, of the average student attending those different levels, their skills, what they were able to do in a given X level 5-10 years ago, and what they're able to, their output now is much more, is much more subpar, So I'm not sure if you have observed that, okay, as a teacher. Or because do you primarily teach basic students, intermediate, advanced even, or have you taught?
I would say that most of my students are found between the A1 level and the B1, B2
okay,
level.
so
yes,
rather
towards
basic.
the lower levels, To answer your question, I mean, I think that you've been a teacher for longer than I have, so I'm not sure how fast, like how quickly you've observed this change happening. I don't know if I can say that I've observed a change. I started teaching about 6 years ago, so I've been in this game for quite a short period of time, in relatively. And I don't know if I've observed a trend downwards in terms of students' skill level. I will say, however, that I've taught all age of students. So I have taught primary age students from 6 years old to 11 or 12 years old. And I currently teach university students in their early 20s. And I would say that their levels are about the same.
Really?
in most cases. And I mean, I think that a lot, at least in Spain, and maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, but I think that students who are currently in primary school are probably getting a more intensive English education than the university students that I teach got when they were in primary school. So that could account for the fact that my university students have such a low level, considering they've had, you know, a 15-year advantage over the 6-year-olds that I've taught. But I don't know how their skills compare to those of students 15 years ago or 20 years ago in the same age, you know? So I can't really attest to whether I agree or disagree with you, because I just haven't been a teacher for long enough. But you think that, you know, according to your experience, that it's true that they've
But that is in my view
gotten worse,
irrespective of their age. Okay, I'm saying that's definitely not the fault. I mean, that's not the fault. Okay, kind of like just trying to go out of your way is a personal decision. I mean, you can either choose or avoid. But I think that honestly, the system, you know, the education system tends to, I mean, has shifted, okay, towards a more, I would say, a system that, you know, demands less ownership and accountability from people, and it tries to prevent people from failing. And so, of course, I think that the current level of you know, students, you know, like studying or learning a foreign language, English in my case, is symptomatic and representative of the shift in education towards, I would say, they try to coddle you. Okay, so they try to protect you from failing and from frustration. So that is it. Like the less you demand, the less they do. Yeah. And the less, like, you know, so it's kind of like you're lowering the bar more and more and more. Right. Lowering the standard. Right. Okay. So and it's the more you lower the bar, okay, the less, because again, I think that the majority of people function by being drawn to the path of least resistance. Okay. So they want like to do less and less and get away with that. And of course, with that being said, okay, there's many students who are willing to actually go out of their way. They do their homework, whatever, but that sometimes strikes me as an anomaly when it should be the norm.
Right. It seems, you
know,
like
it's like, wow, okay, you're doing the homework, you're doing the assignments. It's like, gosh.
No, I would say, I mean, it's been a little discouraging in the sense that now, I mean, when I started teaching university students, I was excited because I was thinking, finally I can have like proper, real conversations with these guys. I'm going to get real participation, like enthusiasm, because these are adults now. They should have prospects of not only, you know, achieving a great standing in terms of work and stuff, but also in terms of personal growth. So I was expecting maybe too much out of them. So when I started teaching them, and I was so excited to really just, you know, fulfill and my desires in teaching, and I don't know, see these brilliant young minds at work, I was disappointed. And I can tell you that in an average class of, I don't know, 40 university students, perhaps 4 or 5 of them regularly participate. 4 or 5 of them show real effort and real enthusiasm and real interest in learning the language, and the rest are there just because they have to be. And you can, I mean, you can notice that they are like, they're in the room, but they're not. You know what I mean? I look them in the eyes and they're empty. So it's really been discouraging in the sense that I, as I've said to you in the beginning of this podcast, every minute of my teaching time, I put in 150%. Even if I don't get anything back, I continue to put in all of my work and passion into teaching.
I can attest that, you know, I can attest that.
Yes. You know, like, and it's like, wow, why am I even here? You know, if I'm not getting anything back. If 4 or 5 students in the class are actually engaging with me, you know? So yeah, I would say my personal experience has been a little bit disappointing. And as you said, I don't know if it's a problem with the education system in general, or just English, like learning a foreign language in general, that's a problem for these students. I don't know.
Okay, of course, that's, you know, because I was thinking that those 4 or 5 students who were actually, you know, involved in the class, participating, okay, that they were the ones who were not kind of sleepwalking through life. Like they wanted to, you know, to I don't know, they have this kind of mindfulness mindset. Okay, if I'm here, okay, I'm going to learn. Okay, I'm going to take advantage of this person's, this is a privilege. Okay, I'm going to take advantage of it. Okay, we have like a Canadian, a native speaker who is absolutely, you know, devoted, okay, to her work, and she's willing. I mean, so it's a perfect opportunity to really take advantage of that privilege. There's a chance again that people, some of those students in the first place, they were just there because they had to.
It's like an elective, like they
yeah,
have to
yeah,
complete this course.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't know. Like once you're there, you should take advantage of that. Of course, it's gonna be depending on the person's own interests.
Yeah, of course.
They will, you know, later on might discover that they might regret.
Oh, I should have paid more attention.
They might regret. Okay, again, as I would tell you, someone who is like really fluent and skilled with English, that's going to be an important asset that they can use.
Yeah.
Okay? But not just to find a job. Okay, I'm not talking about, like, you know, they're employable. I'm saying
to travel, to interact with people.
But even even to prove to yourself that you can pick something which is challenging. Okay. And at the beginning, it seems like an uphill battle. Yeah. Something is impossible to master, and you do it. Okay. When you prove that to yourself, your sense of achievement and also being able to your self-esteem just kind of like skyrockets, because you understand that there's something that you basically you couldn't imagine, okay, that you would basically master or had a good command of, but you did it. Okay, so the sense that you have is amazing. But at the same time, I think that is also symptomatic of again, today's education, which is basically a reflection of today's society. I'm not sure if you have heard the German term Zeitgeist.
Yeah, of course. The spirit of the time.
The spirit of the time, okay?
Yeah.
And the spirit of the time in the last years or decade, or even, you know, decades, I'm not sure. It has been a spirit, or you know, like it's been like an atmosphere of basically, you know, cuddling you, you know, kind of like, oh, you're trying to make sure you don't get offended, okay, that you have trigger warnings everywhere, okay, so in case you can be offended by something that you know, you have your safe space, okay, so that kind of like, you know, cuddling the person. So
I do want to add to that, because I do agree with you, but I also think that, I mean, you're right. I think education is reflective of a society, and I do think that it's not only like a philosophy of coddling students, but I do think that there's another aspect of apathy that's disseminated across society, just because I think that these younger generations, I'll include my generation in there as well, they kind of see a future where no matter how hard we work, we're not going to be able to achieve the same things that our parents or grandparents did with the same amount of work and the same amount of interest that they did. I think
so what is the alternative? Not doing anything at all?
No, I mean, that's definitely not the alternative. That's why you should push even harder. But I'm saying, I think some of that explains why it seems that students are just, I mean, the word I use, they're apathetic. They are indifferent to the education that they receive. They're indifferent to skills they can develop. I think they're just kind of out of it, because maybe they think that the future is not a good one. They think that no matter what they do, they're going to end up in the same circumstances, whether they work hard or not. Like, I feel like perhaps these younger generations feel like it's not it's no longer about merit. It's about luck. It's about chance. It's about the system being in your favor. And that's it. I mean, that's my point of view. Perhaps you disagree.
Do you believe that? Do you subscribe to that way of thinking?
I do.
Really?
I subscribe to that point of view. I don't encourage students or anyone to just give up and say, well, the system's fucked, so I'm not going to try anymore. I think that's why you should try harder to surpass all those limits and become the best person you can be despite the shitty society that you live in, because that's the only way society is going to improve, right? If people are going to become indifferent and just give up and not try anymore, then yeah, society is going to crumble. So I think despite all of these circumstances and maybe a scary, empty future that you can see, I think you should try in spite of that.
Okay.
You know?
So, yeah, sure. I agree with that. Okay, that last bit, that you should, you know, in spite of everything, okay, you have to push harder than the rest. But you know, I'm not sure if you know, guys, girls, okay, but Hanny and I have something in common. Many things, I guess, but one of them is like, yeah, we are both graduates in psychology.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. And so that, you know, you might have heard of external and internal locus of control, and something called syndrome, or just called like learned helplessness. Yeah. Okay. Learned helplessness, because that strikes me as this kind of like, you know, and that is a kind of mindset that has also caught on in my country, in Spain, for the last couple of years, and rightfully so in some occasions. Okay, because many people, okay, we like, so especially generations younger than mine, okay, my little brother, for example, or people who were probably like people from a previous, from a, you know, like the next generation, okay, those born between, I don't know, like the end of the 80s and the beginning of the 2000s, I guess. Yeah. They see that for all the work they're putting in, okay, that, you know, with the same, I would say, even more qualifications that, you know, the people of an older generation like myself, with fewer qualifications, we were able just to, you know, we were getting like, we were reaping the fruits. Okay, we were like basically getting more, secure jobs, or even like living home or buying home, whatever. And
unthinkable.
Yeah. That is
Yeah.
So and that is something that, you know, the majority of them think it is unfair, because they are, in comparison, they have like, you know, they're studying more degrees, they speak like different languages, and yet they cannot seem just to find a you know, kind of a future, or I mean the future seems bleak. Okay. Yeah. But again, I'm saying, okay, that is that I will give you that. Okay. But understand that that's no excuse to not really master yourself. And I mean, because it's something that you and I have spoken about many times, is that, you know, the world, your world, okay, or the your audience, okay, if you will, is no longer limited to your neighborhood, your town, and even your country. Okay, your audience is the world. Sure. Okay, and in no other time has been like easier just to master something. You have everything.
You have the internet.
You have the internet, of course. Okay, but not only as a showcase for your skills and your assets. Okay, but also as a way to learn, to be a perpetual learner. Yeah. Okay. You should never.
I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of perpetually learning.
Yeah, the things like, you know, so because what is the alternative? Like doing nothing, just like, you know, basically waiting, like patiently wait for death to happen. Yeah. And so that is the things like, and that kind of mindset, even though I for some time, okay, I had this kind of rebellious, you know, kind of vehement attitude. It's like, yeah, well, whatever, we deserve this. They're not giving what we deserve. They're not giving like the system, the authorities, the government, whoever. Okay, who's they? And then there was a fellow Canadian guy that I'm following on YouTube, and he said, okay, I'm going to tell you exactly what you deserve. Okay, I'm going to tell you exactly what you deserve. Okay, he just knows that. This is what you deserve. Nothing. Okay, there's nothing. Okay, all that you deserve comes as a byproduct of your work. And what you have to do, I think, is to prove, okay, even though, because like you might think, that sometimes, it is unfair, but I can tell that you're an exceptional, really goal-driven and passionate, like, you know, professional at what you do. And you might think that that is not paying off because, well, I mean, you know, you don't have the reward, or you don't have, I would say, you don't have the you don't have the reward that you deserve, okay, for all the passion and dedication. So what? I'm telling you that will pay off. That will pay off, especially because the majority of the people are not willing to go out of their way and putting that extra passion, that extra work that you're willing to put.
No, I mean, understand that while I prescribe to the fact that I think the future for a lot of the younger generation is quite bleak unless something changes. I don't think that this should be used as an excuse. I think, on the other hand, it should be a reason for you to become greater, to become better. And so I'm only using it as a possible explanation for why I see this apathy in students, not as an excuse, but as a possible reasoning, a possible explanation. But I fully believe that and I grew up with parents and in an environment that encouraged education, encouraged learning, and self-improvement. And so that's what I want to teach my students. That's what I want to teach the next generation. And I hope that some of what I try to teach them, because of course teachers never just teach materials in a book, right? Teachers try to instill some kind of philosophy onto their students to become better people and to improve society. I'm hoping that at least a remnant of what I'm trying to do instills and imprints on these students, and they grow up to be good people that improve society. But I'm not the most optimistic, because I do think that a lot of them are just, I don't know, they're just a little bit indifferent to everything. So
okay, that's the problem.
That is a problem, and I don't know how you remedy that.
That's time, like, misspent. Okay, like, badly spent.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that you're saying, okay, I'm pretty sure that, okay, that passion of yours and that dedication will resonate at least with a bunch of them. Okay, so that is, I mean, I would say that if my words, if my my efforts or my work resonates with at least a couple of people, I will be happy. I will be content.
Yeah.
And another reason to really do this and you strive to master oneself is because, unlike political decisions, unlike war, international conflicts, unlike economic crisis, that is something that you can control. You can control. Okay, it's like that is like mastering yourself is one of the few things that you can actually control. It's like, well, you cannot control the world, like going to hell, and you're not going to control, like, like international conflicts or greedy politicians, but you can control your own skills, mastering your own skills, mastering yourself and improving yourself and becoming the best version of yourself. I know this is kind of like very kind of like cliche at this point, no, but it is true. Okay, so the few things you can control.
Yeah.
And one thing I need to say, okay, because like in some of former section, I was describing the level of students, but exclusively because they have been lumped into categories B2, C1, which I think are at this point are completely irrelevant. Honestly, I'm sure that's gonna unleash some backlash from my colleagues, but it's what I think, honestly. What I have to say, okay, I have to say though that this hasn't helped, okay, ever since we have, for those like listening and not watching, I'm holding a face mask, okay, so having to wear a face mask the entire time has not helped, okay. It has taken away a lot of the spontaneity, and the class.
You're talking about strictly in the classroom.
Yeah. Okay, and in relation to this, I wanted to ask you about online teaching versus face-to-face teaching, because you have experienced both, right?
Yeah.
What is your experience of like both modalities?
Well, since you just brought up the mask, are you talking about specifically since the pandemic, or you're talking about
the
pandemic?
Since the pandemic, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, yes, the pandemic has changed a lot. At this point, I mean, there are aspects of in-person education that I still prefer, even with the mask. And there are aspects of online education that I prefer now. So if you ask me which I prefer and what aspect I prefer, when it comes to in the classroom education, I still prefer having the ability to be in the same space as my students. I think that the energy, whatever you want to call it, is different in a classroom versus on the screen, right? So when I'm present with my students, I can still walk up to them. I can still look them in the eyes. I can see what they're doing. I know if they're paying attention to me or not. So in terms of knowing that they're at the very least present and listening, I have an advantage in the classroom. However, of course, the mask has made things a little bit more difficult, especially when you're teaching a language. It's hard when you can't see their mouths moving, they can't see my mouth moving. And when I'm teaching, or I mean, when I'm doing anything, I move my face a lot. I
Yeah.
smile, I make strange expressions, but that's how I express ideas. Like, it's one thing saying ideas, it's another thing gesturing, right? And making
Yeah.
faces. And so much is lost in translation when you can't see a person's face, or at
Yeah.
least the bottom half of their face, which is a lot of where emotion is shown,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So I feel like since the pandemic, I've lost a sense of connection with my students.
Yeah, me
And
too.
they to
Me too.
me, I'm
Me too.
sure, I
Me
feel
too.
like they see me kind of as a blank board, like not as a person, but rather as a, generic teacher. They don't really get my personality. They they've lost the connection, and I with them as well, which is really sad. So would you say that you felt the same?
Absolutely. Okay, absolutely.
Yeah.
Something, and yeah, ever since the outbreak of the pandemic, I remember in 2 years ago exactly now, okay, and like
Yeah.
mid-March 2020, we had to, like the pandemic, broke out like crazy,
Yeah.
and we all of a sudden we had to be locked down in our homes, okay. But I'm glad that education that I remember that occurred on like during a weekend, okay, from like
Yeah.
Friday. I
Right.
thought I would be teaching on Monday, okay, and then
Right.
on Monday I was like kind of like during the weekend I was like, there's something called Zoom, okay. I had never heard of Zoom, of
Yeah.
even like Skype, okay. I had never really used Skype before, okay. So I was completely ignorant of these new mediums. So we basically and I remember that at the beginning, even though at the beginning it was kind of weird, okay, because it was very hard to replicate the
Yeah.
classroom dynamic and on the screen, but little by little, for me it was actually a window of opportunity. um, and I was like, I remember like that second half of the course of the academic year, I have really fun memories. I'm not saying that I would, regress to online teaching lockdown. No, no, please. I'd rather just go and kind of mingle and just, not be locked down in my home anymore.
Yeah.
But that didn't detract actual quality teaching from the equation.
So
I'm
what
glad.
is it? What is it about the online teaching that you enjoyed so much?
I don't know. It's like it is like, I don't know. It's like I was using Zoom, okay, and I don't have like any affiliation with Zoom, by the way.
Not
But
sponsored, not sponsored.
no, I wish I was. Eventually, we will be.
Imagine sponsored by Zoom. That'd be great.
But they had you could divide I mean, I don't know. It was like the classes were shorter. Okay, at some point it was you would just log in and we get to the point. And so instead of all this kind of like preambles or kind of like work. I mean, I told my students that, as the class would be shorter, okay, like, probably, like it would be 70% of the usual length of the class. That time that we had to, write off, they would have just to do some preparation, like whenever they logged on, okay, they basically joined the meeting. It was going to be pure speaking, pure like communication, okay. So all this kind of preparatory work they did beforehand, and so they managed it. So the classes, to some extent, were more agile.
Okay.
So what I'm glad is that and you can share screen, give presentations, blah blah blah. Okay, you could divide. Okay, let's make small groups, because I would have an average of like 15 people, and in a meeting, so you could like basically split that into smaller groups. It was very convenient. Okay, it was very. I mean, it was not the things like it was not a dramatic change. Okay, so it was something smooth and reasonably seamless. Okay, so I'm happy. Okay, it didn't detract from teaching quality.
That's good. I mean, my experience with online teaching when it came to the university classes was, I mean, I would never do it again, because I think that handling and managing 30 students or 40 students in Zoom
Mhm.
is much more different
Well,
than
yeah, of course,
15 students.
of course.
And when a lot of these students don't participate in class, imagine how it was on Zoom. Okay,
Yeah.
most of them did not even turn on their cameras.
Yeah.
So at least in a classroom, I can see their eyes, you know, whether it's with a mask or online. Of course, I get to see their faces, but maybe 2% of the students would actually have their cameras on. So I'm speaking to a black screen. So I wanted to die. I wanted to die in that time when we had to teach classes online. So yeah, I would never do it. I mean, of course, doing online classes with fewer students and students who you know participate and you can speak about, you know, different topics with, that's a different topic because I love doing online classes, but I do normally one-on-one or very small groups. So that's like a whole different thing. That's super enjoyable. And I feel like every minute is, you know, wonderful and it's being used well. Whereas in a university class online, half of that time is telling students to turn on their camera. The other half is technical difficulties. And there's zero learning. I felt that was happening. It was horrible. So our experiences were different, but I'm happy that you had a positive one. I would never go back to it.
Yeah, I wouldn't go back to that, but I'm saying, okay, that face mask, like the fear of contagion, I guess.
Yeah.
Everything surrounding COVID has definitely taken a toll on honestly. I have like seen like a downward trend, like, you know, fewer and fewer students like just show up. Like fewer are willing just to, you know, probably because fear has taken over. Okay.
Yeah.
And people are still fearful of, I don't know, of like, I don't know why. Okay. But that's honestly, that is one of the aftermaths, okay, of the pandemic, is that, you know, the fear and kind of like somehow poisoning, you know, social interaction. It's gonna stay with us for a while, okay? And I don't know, and that has definitely permeated teaching.
I mean, it feels quite different from pre-pandemic times, which is sad.
We will see how it goes, okay?
Yeah.
And
definitely.
so the other thing, okay, there's a couple of questions I would like just to finish our conversation, and one of which has to do with today's business, okay? Like, because language teaching, especially English teaching, has turned into a really thriving industry, especially online. It has always been, okay, but now especially like you have like lots of marketing and online businesses like everywhere saying that they have the secret, they have cracked the code, they have found the shortcut to really have you speaking like crazy and whatever, and they have, you know, they have achieved a way to make you, I mean, it's going to be super easy, okay? And there's actually a very popular online business which states that, hey, learning a foreign language, learning English is something actually very stupid. Did you get that? Okay, it's like, how can like learn something like, which is like, you know, like some really demanding, you know, cognitively demanding and intellectually demanding work, something's going to be stupid. So can you get away with something stupid?
Right. No, I wouldn't say so.
So they want to, I'm not sure you're familiar, but like they're trying, okay, so whenever you turn to some business which tries to publicize their, you know, their service or whatever, they tend to emphasize how easy it is going to be, okay? So I mean, so all of the previous methods fail, okay, but hey, we have really
easy and quick, right?
Easy and quick, okay, easy and quick.
Yeah, so, I've noticed it, and nothing worth learning is ever going to be easy or quick.
That is it. That is
immediately you have to kind of question it. Yeah, definitely.
And if something's going to be easy, discard it, okay? So if someone's promising easy, like, no, and it won't be easy, okay? It won't be easy, okay? It can be, some methods can, you know, can help you learn faster. Yeah. But if something is promising easy, avoid them, like the
red flag,
you know, flee, you know, like, you know, steer clear of them. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, they're marketing to people's most basic instinct, which is to, like, as you said, to go to the path of the least resistance.
That is it.
People are looking for easy, quick solutions to problems, right?
I'm saying,
okay, but you're into fitness, right?
Yeah.
You know, people are always looking for the easy, quick solution to losing weight, to becoming fit. Yeah. And they don't want to actually put in the work, because why would you if there's a quick, easy secret, right?
Okay, so But I'm going to tell you, like, in fitness, in whatever, in learning a skill, okay, when you are pursuing the easy, okay, easy fix, what results are you going to get? Do you think you're going to get outstanding results consistently? No, you're going to get mediocre, okay, at best results. And the same applies to learning a foreign language. So I'm saying this, guys, if you're hearing this and something's promising easy, guys,
get out of there.
They're lying. They are lying, essentially. They're lying because I mean, there's something that they want to come up with all these fancy terms like the neuro language, the neuroscience. Okay, so it's to give it like to dress them up as something kind of like scientifically and kind of futuristic or something. It's like you're living in the matrix in a computer program where something clicks and all of a sudden you can actually speak Japanese in 7 days or whatever. It's like Short Circuit. I'm not sure if you have seen the movie Short Circuit. Okay,
I probably did, but the name, I don't recognize the name, but I probably have.
Like again, that again is not real. That's science fiction. Okay, that's
right. I mean, there's the old adage: if it looks too good to be true, it is, right?
Absolutely.
But marketing consistently focuses on this strategy of making things look easy and quick, and people continue to fall for it.
Yeah, of course, but I think there must be like some people. I mean, because you say, okay, I'm into fitness. Yeah, I'm into exercising. Okay, but I myself, maybe I'm really a goal-driven person and wants to pursue like difficult things. So I'm not contented by just staying in decent shape, whatever. I want to do like cool things which are very demanding. So I'm always like setting new goals when it comes to everything. Okay, essentially. But I think that there's many people around. I mean, there's many people in the world, okay, who think like that, who are. It's not that they are perfectionists, but they want to challenge themselves, okay, and it's something. Yeah. So and they don't fall for the easy scam, Right. That is why, okay, I wrote a book called Mastery because like it's
check it out. It's good.
She proofread it.
I did. It's really good.
Good. So that is a homage, okay. So the title of the book is not coincidental, okay. It's definitely a homage to Robert Greene's Mastery, and a book in which he said that unlike some of the in the past people would be committed to the idea of mastering something, okay, and honing their skills, and they knew it was going to be a long process.
Yeah. In psychology, we were taught that in order to be considered a master or expert in a field, you had to invest 10,000 hours into something.
Yeah.
I believe it.
And for the majority of the people, that would automatically turn them off. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
So I have been told here, and there's like commercial that I saw on YouTube or whatever that I would learn. Okay, I would be able to speak really well a foreign language in 6 months. Okay, so we have like the 6 weeks challenge, 6 week, 6 months, six pack or whatever. Okay? You're expecting to like people are kind of this really delusional, okay, expectation of going from nothing to everything, and that contradicts reality. Okay, that contradicts reality absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Just to finish, I would like to ask you, Hanny, about we have spoken about probably the pattern decline. I'm not sure. Okay, because I agree with you. You said that for some of the youngest students, okay, those have been, raised. They have those who are digital natives, but not only digital natives, whose education or like primary education has been heavily focused on on like a foreign language. Probably they have like bilingual education. So for sure, I can tell that is true. Okay, I have the same experience. Like some of the younger students, like they're much weaker, okay, than the older ones whose English like teaching has been focused probably on more like grammar or reading and probably writing. So they can write pretty decently, okay, but they don't have this.
They can't speak.
They can speak definitely. They can speak, okay, anywhere as well as the younger ones, okay. So those ones like much more like quick and spontaneous and agile. I don't know, like probably because like they're used to watching YouTube, they're used to watching Netflix, they're used to, I mean, and they have like bilingual education, okay. But I wanted to ask you about so again, I'm not dissing any of the newer students, okay, they have great skills, and I think that in no time of history it has been easier just to master something, like you have like things now, especially English, okay, you have everything on your smartphone, you have Duolingo, you have all these kind of really, I don't know those apps, okay, but there's many you know, you have so many options, endless options, okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can, you know, you can use Skype, you can whatever. I mean, you can connect with other person in the world. Yeah, I know. I could be like talking to you, and you would be in Canada. You're not, but,
Yeah.
but
I mean, I could
that
be.
would that
Maybe
would be,
I am. You don't know.
maybe you are. Who knows?
Yeah.
That would not be an impairment. Okay, that wouldn't be an
Yeah.
obstacle.
Yeah.
And so again, I'm saying that if I have somehow question, okay, the level of this of the decreasing level of gradually and progressively decreasing level of declining level of students, I'm just saying that because some, in my view, artificial categories, B2, B1, have been created, and you know, it's kind of like, let's lump these people into this, and we are unique, okay, we are unique, so I don't really fall for those different categories.
Right.
You know, also known as certificates or levels. Okay, I don't believe
Right.
you know, in that.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So I was saying that, you know, so of course that is not any kind of criticism towards like students. They are phenomenal, and the ones who put in the work, okay, they deserve all my respect.
Yes.
I want to ask you about the role of the we have like probably spoken about the role of a student. What about what roles do you think, or what requirements do you think that both teachers and students should possess in order just to really make sure that to maximize the learning and teaching process?
I mean, as we've mentioned multiple times now, I think there has to be dedication on both sides.
On both sides.
There has to be passion and motivation as well. I think those aspects are common and should be present in both teacher and student. I mean, of course, I mean, a teacher that you have, I mean, as a student, a teacher can make or break a subject or area of learning, right? So as a teacher myself, as I've mentioned before, I hope that my passion and my dedication does have an effect on my students in the sense that they feel more motivated and more dedicated to learning this language. And of course, when my students show the same type of dedication and motivation, that feeds back to my dedication and motivation. It's like a feedback loop, right?
Yeah.
The more motivated I am and dedicated I am, my students feel that. They totally know whether you're there because you love teaching or whether you're there to just, you know,
going through the motions.
Yeah, exactly. They notice it, and that affects them.
It
decides whether they actually put time into the subject or not, and vice versa. I know if my students are just going through the motions or if they're actually there because they're interested and they're passionate and they're looking to improve themselves. And so it's a feedback loop, right? I mean, the teacher is going to affect the student and the student is going to affect the teacher. And so I feel like both parties need to share the same kind of personality aspects and
I think that the willingness of going out of the way, okay, is like, because like one of the things that really kind of like bothers me and saddens me is that amongst some teachers, okay, there's like phenomenal teachers out there, of course, and I know many of them, but some kind of mentality or attitude prevails in the sense like sometimes they're just looking for an easy job or a secure or a job that they can keep for life. Man, okay, as you don't understand, okay, the responsibility you have on your hands, okay, you have huge responsibility on your hands, okay, whether you're teaching primary school students, whether you're teaching you know, secondary school students, or whether you're teaching adults, you have a huge responsibility on your hands, okay, and you should and you should make sure that you measure up, okay, because that is you have to be willing to go out of your way to make sure that. And for example, you need to inspire your teachers, okay? So you make sure you inspire your students, okay? You need to make sure you need to be inspirational, okay?
100%. And of course, like there are days where I feel more frustrated with my students and days where I feel like, oh, I don't want to do this right now. But despite all that, I put that aside and I say, I cannot let my feelings right now show to the students, right? Even if I don't want to be there that day because my students are being extra annoying and extra frustrating, I put that aside and I still put my best self forward because they know that if you want to be there, or I mean, they know they can notice, but they'll also react in turn. If they can see that I want to be there, even though they're being annoying, they're going to notice the extra effort, and they're gonna eventually, like I've been in a class where they've been super annoying and disruptive, and the minute they see that despite their behavior, I'm still treating them like human beings and I'm listening to what they have to say and their feelings, they switch their behavior.
Of course.
They're like, oh, okay, sorry, teacher. Well, we're gonna listen. Like, I know we've been annoying, but we know you're here to teach us.
They
react to.
They can sense it. They can sense it,
Yes.
and they're not indifferent to that. Of course.
So I think there's a huge problem with teachers forgetting that their students are human beings, and they treat them like they're subjects. You know, it's like a king and their subjects. There's no mutual respect. There's no mutual understanding. A teacher is like a dictator and the students have to listen and, you know, have to obey. For me, I know that maybe this is controversial and teachers should have some authority. And I do have some authority, of course, but I see myself as an equal to my students. I'm no better than them. I'm no worse than them. You know what I mean?
In any case, you might exert or project that, you know, intellectual superiority in a given field.
Sure, I mean, I've lived longer,
by mastering
I have more
something.
Exactly.
Yeah, by being knowledgeable. Okay, not by only by you know.
Not by virtue of
by virtue
being a teacher.
Of the authority. You know? That is it. Okay. And just one tiny little question. I know that you have like I know you
have to go really quickly. But
really
go ahead.
Okay, just one last question. We have spoken about this kind of false marketing, you know, shortcut hacks, whatever. But do you think that there's anything that really works? Okay, for example, for students is there any trick or any, I don't know, any strategy that you think works? It's complicated.
It is complicated because there are various things that work. That work together. I would say I always tell my students to learn English in a way that really impassions them. So if they want to learn English by watching Netflix series that really interest them, go ahead and do that. If traveling and speaking to people in another country is how they want to learn, then do that. If going to study abroad is how they want to do it, then do that. But in terms of like day-to-day learning, I'm not sure if there's one thing that really works. I think that just telling yourself, ask yourself, why are you learning this language, right? Yeah. Because I know that for you, motivation is a really important topic, as it is for me. Yeah. And I think that is perhaps the driving factor is motivation. Why? Remind yourself every day that you're learning a language, even if it's frustrating, even if you feel like you're never going to learn this language, even if you feel like you're just wasting time, remind yourself why you're doing this. That's it. So to have a good sense of your motivation and objectives and goals is, I think, the best way to kind of continue to push yourself. And also just to personalize. Okay, there's something. Make it something personal. I mean, like don't things by the book. Okay. And honestly, like you try whenever you're trying to learn expressions, whatever, you know, find your own way of communicating because we are all unique. Okay. And if you can apply that uniqueness, you can like translate that into the way you express yourself in a different language. It's going to be eventually effortless because you're going to be yourself, but speaking a foreign language. Yes, and one last thing, I would say that positive reinforcement is very, very good. Sometimes I think that teachers forget to tell their students that they're doing a good job. They're always critiquing, right? I always try to remind my students, even if they make a mistake, even if they haven't expressed things the way I would like them to express, I tell them like, good job. You didn't do the correct thing, but you really tried, and I appreciate the effort. I think positive reinforcement works on everyone. So I would say that's a tip. Do that as a teacher. For sure. Yeah.
Okay, Hanny, I'm gonna let you go. Right. Okay, thank you so much.
Yes. As usual. Should I quickly plug myself before?
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So for people who want to learn more about me, or if you're interested in having me as your teacher, you can find me on Instagram at Hanny_English speaking coach, or you can contact me via email at speakingcoachhanny@gmail.com.
Okay, I will like later on like put the credits, the titles. Okay,
perfect.
Hanny, it's been a pleasure.
And check out Javi's book. check it out.
Yeah, we'll eventually talk about that one. Okay, so okay, Hanny, a pleasure as usual. I will see you in a further episode and see you soon. Thank you so much.
See you soon.
I'm honored. I'm ingratiated. Thank you so much as usual.
Another great conversation. Thank you, Javi.
For sure. Another winner.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.